Hey, it's Murphy and I'm back, and we're going to take a look back at all 9 of the Fast and Furious films because Fast and the Furious X is about to come out and the newest trailers are out and everybody's getting excited. We're just going to take a look back, a little trip through memory lane because now there's been 10 of them. And actually, did you know, technically, number 10 would actually be the 11th if you count a short film that was written and directed and starred in by one of the actors. Stick around to the end and we'll go over exactly what I'm talking about. Until then, let's just get started. In 2001, a new kind of action movie was born. The Fast and the Furious took audiences by storm. Seriously, back then, that's all anybody would talk about, that summertime movie, Fast and the Furious. You had to see it. Who doesn't love fast car races and robberies? But that was just the beginning. The first film introduced us to Brian O'Connor, played by Paul Walker, an undercover cop who infiltrates a gang of street racers led by Dominic Toretto.
You embarrass me!
Did you know that the movie's famous drag racing scene was shot on the actual streets of Los Angeles without any special effects? And also, did you know that the film was inspired by an article in Vibe magazine about illegal street racing in New York City? Little did they know back then, they were starting off a franchise that would continue to be successful 22 years later, as the first film was shot in 2001. Too Fast and Too Furious, the sequel that saw Brian teaming up with Roman Pearce, played by Tyrese Gibson, to take down a drug lord in Miami.
I mean, we're gonna have to pull something out of our ass.
The movie was actually originally supposed to feature Vin Diesel's character, but he turned it down to star in a movie called Triple X instead. And if you actually go watch Triple X, it's about a special agent that does really cool things with lots of cool cars. Not too far of a deviation, but you could see with his stardom, perhaps he just wanted to step out and try to create a franchise on his own, which now they're talking about making a 4th Triple X movie, so I think that's really played out well for Vin Diesel on either decision. The Fast and the Furious 3 Tokyo Drift. Third film in the series takes us to Tokyo, where we meet Sean Boswell, played by Lucas Black. I know, right? You're thinking Friday Night Lights. Loved him in that. In this movie, he's a teenager that gets caught up in the world of drift racing in Tokyo. The movie features a cameo from Vin Diesel's character, actually. So he wasn't in the entire movie, but the cameo towards the end sets up his return for the future film. And the movie's director, Justin Lin, he'd actually go on to direct several more Fast and the Furious movies. Now we're on to Fast and Furious. Notice I didn't say The Fast and Furious. In 2009, the 4th film brings back the original cast for a new adventure, as Brian and Dom team up to take down a drug cartel. The movie's title officially drops "the" from the series name for the first time. That must have been an intense marketing agency meeting where they talked about the brand and when it had "the" at the beginning.
They have a sentimental bond with the product.
The film's opening heist sequence, in which the gang hijacks a fuel tanker, was shot using practical effects and real explosions. Very cool that that actually happened without much special effects.
All right, we're good to go. You got this.
Bet your ass, Papa. Let's make some money!
Moving on to 2011, we get a film called Fast 5. The 5th film marks a turning point for the series because the gang actually becomes international fugitives and they pull off a heist in Rio de Janeiro. This is when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson joins the series as Luke Hobbs, a federal agent that was tasked with hunting down the gang. The movie's climactic chase scene featuring a bank vault being dragged through the streets of Rio was actually achieved using a real vault and practical effects. Fast and Furious 6 in 2013, this film sees the gang recruited by Hobbs, The Rock's character, to take down a dangerous criminal mastermind. So instead of hunting them, he's now using them as a team. And the film marks the return of Michelle Rodriguez's character Letty, who people actually thought had died in a previous film. I just love how she came back to life. It makes this movie franchise series just all the more believable because so many things that have happened in the films is very realistic.
You embarrass me!
The movie does feature a mid-credits scene that sets up the events of the next film, which would introduce Jason Statham to the franchise.
You don't know me. You're about to.
Now we're into just Furious. We cut out "the," we cut out "Fast" and we're on to Furious 7. The 7th film is dedicated to Paul Walker, who tragically passed away during production. Not during the movie, but he was in a car that was going at a high speed and ended up passing away. Fans throughout the country and the world really mourned his death, and the franchise really lost something special when Paul Walker passed away. In this movie, the gang teams up with Hobbs once again to take down a terrorist who has a stolen, powerful surveillance device. Teaming up with Hobbs again. Wow, they actually made it to 8. Not many franchises out there get to 8 movies. Fast and the Furious 8, known as The Fate of the Furious, was the first film in the series to be directed by Gary Gray, who had just come off a very successful performance with Straight Outta Compton in 2015, and way back in the day he made The Italian Job, which was pretty awesome use of some vehicles in that movie as well. The movie features a scene in which Charlize Theron's character, Cypher, hacks into hundreds of cars and causes them to drive themselves, creating a massive traffic jam. The scene was actually inspired by a real-life cyber attack that occurred in 2015, in which hackers took control of a Jeep Cherokee and caused it to crash. F9. The Fast and the Furious got chopped down to Fast and Furious, to Furious 7, to F9, which is, a keyboard key, right? F9 actually introduces Dominic Toretto's younger brother. I didn't even know he had a younger brother. His name is Jacob Toretto, spelled with a K. There's no C on Jacob Toretto on this one. It's Jakob. His younger brother, Jacob Toretto, that was played by the famous WWE wrestler turned actor, John Cena. Rumor has it you can't actually see him in the film. Okay, fine. Bad joke. While Hobbs and Shaw, played by Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, were in the last film before this one, main characters of the Fast and Furious spin-off Hobbs and Shaw, unfortunately would not make an appearance in F9. The director of F9 was Justin Lin. He had previously directed 4 movies: Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6. Justin Lin was also chosen to direct Fast and the Furious 10, but it turns out that it didn't go through that way. He did end up co-writing the film, but later on, he made an Instagram post indicating he would not be the director for whatever reason. Now on to Fast and Furious X. This time around, Dom and company will add another foe to the Rogues gallery by introducing Jason Momoa as Dante, a mysterious, flamboyant, and an incredibly explosive criminal mastermind with ties to the group's past. Director Louis Leterrier confirmed that Dante is the son of Hernan Reyes, the ruthless crime lord at the heart of Fast 5, who was actually killed by the Toretto gang when they were carrying out the film's memorable and over-the-top heist sequence, thus serving a connection between Fast X and 2011's Fast 5. So, I promised earlier we'd go over a little tidbit that proves there's actually 11 quote-unquote films in this series. In between Fast 4 and Fast 5, Vin Diesel wrote, directed, and starred in a 20-minute short film called Los Bandoleros. Not sure where you can watch the whole thing. If you find out, drop a comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe. We will see you again the next time that I'm able to record some more interesting stuff about people in the movies.